Hi, I'm Raylene, and welcome to Khaleesi Clues. It has been close to a year since we said goodbye to Game of Thrones. I think the last episode aired back in May of 2019, and it has been pretty close to a year since my last video. So I guess you could say that the final season really shook me up. It pretty much knocked me to the floor. I think I was in fetal position on the floor for quite some time. And every time I thought about getting back up to try and make some videos, it would just remind me of how upset I was about the ending. And not that it was anything wrong with the actors. The actors were wonderful. And I'm not even like criticizing like the writing or anything, because I'm not a writer. I'm not a creator. I definitely have absolutely no knowledge on it. I'm just speaking from like a fan's point of view, somebody who really, really enjoys the story and the show. I felt cheated or empty, because it felt like so much of the story that had been not so much built up in the show, but more so in the books and a little bit on the show. I mean, you know, Jon's parentage and all of that stuff, that it just felt like so much of it was left out and unanswered. And, you know, I think we were all expecting a whole lot of answers to happen that final season, to get a lot of our questions and our theories and confirmed or completely blown out of the water. And I had like, I don't know if anybody knows anything about me. I am a huge believer in a theory that I had that it wasn't really popular, but I really, really, really believed in it strongly, to the point that that's why I started my YouTube channel. Is I believed Rhaego, which was Dany and Drogo's unborn child. I believed that he was alive and that he would be returning to the story. And I believed that we were going to be getting more dragons, Mourning especially. And so when that final season happened, and every episode that went by, I kept thinking, okay, this is the one. This is the big comeback. This is it. And he never, ever appeared. It was heartbreaking. And you can't imagine how attached you get to a story and characters. And especially when you truly believe in something that you think you have seen clues for, and you shout it out to the whole world. And, you know, I didn't have a whole lot of people that believed in it too, but there were some that said, yeah, I see it, you know. But anyways, so it took me a long time. I was in a depression. I went through anger. And finally, after a while, I started to finally like get back into the books and start enjoying the story. And I came up with a new couple of theories, and I've been sitting on them since basically about November of last year. And I kept like texting my mom, because she's my sound off board. I always talk to my mom about Game of Thrones. And she was in the same funk I was. It was kind of like, oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. Again, nothing against like Dan and Dave, nothing against George, nothing against the actors. It was horrible for like what we wanted to happen, what we wanted to see happen, or for the story that we thought we were going to get. So it was like, and of course I was so angry that Jon did not end up being on the throne. I was mad. I wanted to like throw my remote at the TV. I couldn't talk about it. I could not talk about a lot of the episodes, the last season. Couldn't talk about it without crying. I'll hear like certain things. Like there was like a video that they did of, it was Jon, like a whole bunch of videos about Jon. And it was kind of like a tribute video. And I started crying again. And I get really emotional about this story. I'm so attached to it. So anyways, I took it really hard. Like I said, fetal position on the floor, had a whole script written up for the final episode. I would start editing it, thinking, okay, I can record it. No, nope. I'd get too mad right about to the point where John stabbed Danny. I got so angry in the script that I was just like, no, I think I'll just lie back down in fetal position and just stay here for a while, just a little bit longer. And so it took me a long time to get over it. But anyways, so my new theory, I started like dwelling on it like I do. And I keep obsessing about it. And then next thing you know, it's like, I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's not just a thought. Maybe this is really something that could happen. And so, yeah, so now here I am. And I have been sitting on it since November. And I've been teasing a little bit about it on my Facebook page, but I haven't even been that active on my personal Facebook page or my Khaleesi Clues Facebook page. Just, I've been busy researching. Very busy girl, reading, constantly reading. So anyways, this video is going to be about George R.R. Martin's words and his Not a Blog post about the final episode and season for Game of Thrones. And he titled it An Ending. Sorry about the background noise, but everybody is home. Coronavirus just driving me crazy. Anyways, but yeah, so it is about an ending and what I think that may mean and what I think may be a huge, unless somebody else has already said it, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I haven't watched everybody else's videos, so please tell me nobody else has said this. I will be like devastated. Anyways, so yeah, I have an idea about what an ending means. And I'm really glad to be back, and I'm really hoping that I help a lot of you get out of your funk and bring some excitement back to the story. So on with the video, and thank you so much for putting up with me and waiting for my next video. Thanks. Have a great day.
To go forward, you must go back. With that quote in mind, let me just give you a little idea of how long it took me to begin to get out of this horrible Game of Thrones funk that the show left me in. The show ended last year in May. For the most part of June, I was in a silent mode, not even talking or texting much about the story to my mom, who is the only person I physically know that is as crazy about this story as I am. In July, I started to crawl out of my funk and began thinking about the story again. August, my father's health took a turn for the worse, and sadly, in September, my father passed away. I set the story aside and really didn't start thinking about it again until about mid-October. Then, once again, this story became an escape from reality, being a place of comfort to turn to during a difficult time in my life. I started going back through all of the books, trying to make sense of where I went wrong with my Rhaego theory. I felt like Melisandre looking into those flames, getting everything completely and utterly wrong. I kept trying to make sense of how the show felt so unsatisfying and why there were so many storylines left untold, and some storylines feeling so incomplete. All of the prophecies that now felt like they meant absolutely nothing. There were just so many questions left unanswered. Then, in November, I had a wonderful thought that came to me, and at first I shrugged it off as wishful thinking. And maybe it really is just wishful thinking, but I feel that I am really onto something that can literally change everything. Finally, I find myself feeling the need to create another video in order to reach out to other fans who may not have been happy with the ending of the series. So here it goes, people. And please, leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Now I'm going to quote what George R.R. Martin said to me back in 2015 on his blog. He wrote, "A good story needs a beginning, a middle, and an end." Taking his words into consideration, I've always hoped that when the story came to an end, that the characters' storylines were left in a place where fans like us could then carry on the story in our own minds and take it to places with our imaginations That way the story would never die. So there are two possible things that I am going to propose to you all about the ending for Season 8. My first proposal is exactly what I have previously said, that the series ending is similar to how Mr. Martin plans for the story's completion, and it is up to fans like us to take it to places with our imaginations and answer questions that were left unanswered for ourselves. The story can continue on for as long as we can imagine. My second proposal is this. What if I told you that the final season for Game of Thrones really wasn't the ending after all? I mean, we all heard George R.R. Martin's response to the big question from his May 20th, 2019 personal post titled, "An Ending," on his blog. In his post, he stated that he hears the question that people are asking, how will it all end? The same ending as the show or different? And that little wiggle worm's response was, well, yes and no, and yes and no, and yes and no, and yes. Well, that narrows it down. But then there was the interview he gave to Germany's Welt newspaper back in January. He stated once again that people know an ending, but not the ending. Again, still a pretty vague answer. I think that what most people have come to accept is that the stories will basically end the same or similar for the characters, but that their final destination will have much more depth and leave us with a more fulfilling journey and reasons to why they ended there. Well, that's just fine and dandy, but I'm not buying it. At least I truly believe, and I am wholeheartedly hoping that I am right when I tell you all this. I think that final episode titled The Iron Throne, where we saw Jon kill Daenerys, the Iron Throne melting away, Dany being flown off into the sky by Drogon, Jon reuniting with Ghost at the Wall, Jon being sent off north of the Wall, and we caught a glimpse of that green grass growing through the snow-covered ground, giving us that whole a dream of spring feeling. Happy thoughts, people. Think happy thoughts. Well, let me propose to you this. It was a false spring. Good feelings just went right out the door. I think the end that we witnessed for Season 8 Game of Thrones was absolutely not the end for the story. Wait, let me rephrase that. It was an ending. It just wasn't the ending. I think what ending we received was possibly the ending to the 6th book that George is in the process of writing, The Winds of Winter. If it's not the end to The Winds of Winter, then it is at least a stopping point for the showrunners to use. Think about it. Jon and Dany's storylines are like mirror reflections of one another. So many similarities. Starting from their birth, both of their mothers died in childbirth. Both of them basically living their younger years in hiding because of their identities. Jon being raised and having, at times, a cruel, abusive stepmother. Same thing for Dany, but it was her brother Viserys instead. Both of their first loves were with people that were considered barbaric or wild. Both first loves die. Dany having to end the life of Drogo. Jon didn't have to end Ygritte's life, but what do we see Jon having to do to Dany in Season 8? Jon has to end Dany's life. Jon is ice and Dany is fire. Jon survives falling in the icy waters north of the Wall, whereas Dany survives the flames of at least 2 fires so far. Throughout the story, both become chosen leaders of groups of people in dire need. They both experience loss of their families and friends, betrayals by people they trusted and loved. Matter of fact, the end of Jon's storyline in Book 5, The Dance of Dragons, has him dying at the wall by being stabbed in the chest by people he loved and trusted. Just like I think The Winds of Winter may end with Dany dying by being stabbed in the chest by Jon. What we haven't seen yet, at least in the books, is the resurrection of Jon. We know it's going to happen. Melisandre's haunting words to Jon in Chapter 4 of A Dance with Dragons. Soon enough, you may have grave need of me. And like I have said, Jon and Dany are like mirror reflections of each other. So what I'm saying to the heartbroken Daenerys fans out there, do not lose hope, because she will return. Here is a quote from the House of the Undying. Drink from the cup of ice, drink from the cup of fire. I believe that this is symbolic of death and life. Drink from the cup of ice is symbolic of her death, and drink from the cup of fire is symbolic of her resurrection, mirroring Jon once again. I have more interpretations for the House of the Undying, but that is for another video. I have one last thing to quote from the show, and that is from our favorite Red Priestess, Melisandre. This war of 5 kings means nothing. The true war lies to the north, my king. The long night was exactly that. One long night. A test of strength, like Mance did to the Night's Watch. The Great War is coming. Winter is coming. Rally the realm and spread the news. It's not over. It's only just begun. I'm going to wrap it up for now. I 100% do not believe that the ending we witnessed for Season 8 is the actual ending for the Song of Ice and Fire story that we have all grown to love. The true ending George R.R. Martin has in store for us is still unspoiled and is still yet to come in the final 2 books yet unpublished. And if I'm right, then Dan, Dave, and George R.R. Martin just pulled off the biggest cliffhanger since Jon Snow's death. Or for those who can remember, Dallas, back in the day, who shot JR. It's either that possibility, or I have one amazing imagination, because I have a ton of theories that I have been researching and imagining of things that may possibly be coming up for us. I can't wait to share my ideas once again with anyone out there who is willing to listen and who is as crazy about this story as I am. Thank you all for watching my video. Please leave me a comment or any question you may have for me. Don't forget to please be kind to any and all of the commenters for my videos. Please show your appreciation by hitting the like button. And if you liked my video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Winter is coming. Share the news by sharing this video. Thank you all so much, and everyone have a wonderful day.